look at these two keywords, passion and commitment. Safety commitment is an expression. We are talking about, we are trying to look at that commitment I first put up there. So I'm saying that safety commitment is an expression of your passion to drive through action. That leadership that is action is because of the passion in you. It's because of the passion you have in safety. And so that is what comes up as that's your commitment. So safety commitment is an expression of your passion to safety through action. Most cases, workers in organization may misrepresent your safety leadership. I know of some of us, they will be giving you some names, action woman, iron this, and stuff like that. Safety leadership is not about policing. It's about commitment, expressing your passion for safety of people, expressing that passion not to see people being harmed in an organization. That is just what it's about. So that passion is what makes the safety leaders to be proactive. I want to see that people come to work and go home safely without being harmed. So what are those things I need to put on ground? I need to be proactive. I need to walk extra mile to ensure people are safe. So in doing that, you also need to, as you're being proactive, people are looking up to you. And so with that, your action, it will also trigger them into doing what is right. Let's look at this. It's not what you say, but how you say it. Are you formal or friendly? Safety leaders set the tone for work relationship with their followers. That is to say, your tone determines the performance. Is your tone such that it attracts people to you, it lures people into doing the right thing in an organization, or is your tone such that it takes people away from you? Are you communicating to show how strong you are, how decisive in control, that you're no nonsense person? No, that is not what safety leadership is all about. It's about luring people, influencing people into doing the right thing, into working safely, into coming to work, having that understanding that there is need for them to go to work, leave work without being harmed. So your convincing words on why people should play safely at work goes a long way to touch people's lives. I would rather say touch people's emotions through your sensitization. It's not just enough to come and say, we're going to carry out a risk assessment. You need to report incidents in a workplace. You need to tell people why, when they don't report incidences in the workplace, the adverse effect of it, what comes out. So your communication tone, does it depict warmth? Is it approachable to the team to count on you and to have their back and support? So you need to touch emotions through your safety sensitization. What type of relationship exists between you and your followers? I want to remind you, good followers makes good leadership. So is it a kind of relational contract, which is a long-term relationship with mutual understanding, driven by loyalty and trust and sincere concern? So in safety, we should all, when we understand that safety is a long-term relationship, it's not just a short-term relationship. So when we are discussing with a team, for us to build good safety leadership in departments, we need to inculcate this relational contract, mutual understanding amongst the team members. We also have transactional contracts. It depends on the kind of environment where you are, or the organization, or your relationship with that person. But this one is just a short-term understanding, but strictly on business and more formal. But when you make safety leadership formal, it don't really go along very well. So you need to bring in a little bit bit of transactional contracts and the relational contracts, understanding, bearing in mind that this is a relationship that is going to exist for a long time for people to really believe in you. So building trust amongst team. Trust enables people to be up and doing. You say, okay, we are going to, everybody should report at least 10 incidents in a work free, in an environment to make the environment safe. Because of that trust you have in them, you see them doing the right thing. It also motivates members to invest their time, their money, and share their resources. These resources could be the ideas. In the department, they can come in and bring in ideas that will help support safety performance in an organization, that will promote safety culture. So you need to promote, you need to motivate the members. It also enables you to work more efficiently. Safety leadership is a process revolving around a leader and a follower to achieve a certain goal. Like I said, great leaders starts off as great followers. If you are not a great follower, you cannot be a great safety leader. So the leader must have the skill to influence the follower to achieve the desired result. Good safety followers makes good safety leaders. And of course, he takes credit with we rather than I. How to achieve results? You need to develop common value goals amongst the team. When you develop common values and goals, these common values and goals, you share it amongst the team, amongst the department. Everybody will strive towards achieving that result. Set your balance scorecards and let the team understand it. This is the time, the era now in your strategic decisions. You bring in the team members, the departments, the members, they should be part of the strategic decision making. When they are part of the strategic decision making, we say, okay, in an organization, one of our strategic decisions targets for this year, zero harm. If you bring in the employees and they are part of your strategic decision making, you find out that everybody will work towards achieving that. But when you take your decisions, your strategic decisions outside them, and you try to impose it on them, there will be problem. They will find it difficult to align. So for us to build safety leadership amongst our departments, we need to carry them along. We need to make them believe. We need to make them be part of it. And by so doing, you are empowering the team, involving them in the decisions, allowing them to express their minds. Then you'll be an observer. Hear from them. It's not all the time you talk, you hear from them. And of course, you assign responsibilities and be a good listener. You listen to them, there will be a time for you to evaluate and know if they are on the right track or not. Your followers should have sense of ownership, and then you should give them authority. Allow them to do it. Let them be the ones to save the pace. Let them be the ones to do it. In fact, employees feel very happy when you give them that authority. When
Sorry,
you explain to them
thank you. Sorry,
the
please go.
implications, they'll be able to do that. Then acknowledge efforts and initiatives, not only contributions, not necessarily results. So when you achieve results, you evaluate the performance of the team by using constructive approach. You motivate the team, and then you have to be decisive. In summary, leaders motivate to enable the followers achieve results. The leaders define the objectives, and then the followers execute objectives, and you evaluate them. In conclusion, engage your members to make them responsible. Inspire the team by challenging them. Safety is a collective responsibility. Put it into practice. It's not enough to say it's a collective responsibility. Let everybody have a role to play. When you do that, you are encouraging, you're building leadership amongst the team members, and then walk the talk. Say what you do, not just by saying, you say you do this, you do that. And then safety is about leaving a footprint, not a stain. I always tell people, let everybody give it to them as a target. What is your footprint? What footprint are you giving? And you see people doing the right thing. At this point, I will say thank you very much for the audience attention given to me. Kayode, I'm very grateful for this. That is what I have to say for now. I know people will have questions. Maybe they will put down the questions, and then much later I can attend to that to enable me go back to the other meeting I have.
Okay, thank you, Priska. That's a very good presentation. I just to quickly mention, each of the speakers will have about 10 minutes to make that presentation as mentioned earlier. We want to try and keep to time as much as possible. Please, thank you, Priska, for your presentation. If I can now hand over to Kate. Kate, please, could you please share your screen? Thank you.
I won't be sharing a screen today. I will just be speaking with you. Thank you.
Thank you, that's fine.
Everyone, I wanted to welcome you to today and to commend you on dedicating your time to discussing safety leadership. Now, one of the first examples that anyone gets on a new site, in a new location of safety leadership is the induction. How many have you been to? As safety professionals, and there's 100 of you online, I guess we've been to 5, 10, 50, 60. Have you lost count? Because I know I have. So what do you remember about the inductions that you run? What do you remember about the really good safety inductions that you've attended? And what about the poor ones? I remember a particular induction that I wanted to share with you because it relates to how we build safety leaders in organisations. I was running a project at the time, and it was to look at how do we connect the intended organisational culture with the contractors that come to our sites. And so on a very dark, cold, rainy Melbourne morning, I turned up very early to site for my induction, myself and 15 other people. The people in the room were contractors who were coming to work on a high-rise building. There were electricians, there were concreters, there were general construction labourers, and there were some scaffolders. And we all sat in that room wearing a similar shade of orange, waiting for the safety coordinator to come. And when the safety coordinator did come, they said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm late. I've been on site for an hour and a half already." They set up their laptop, they shared the screen, they put up the PowerPoint, and I started to sit up because this is what I was interested in. I was interested in seeing how is it that we as an organisation shake these people's hand? How is it that we say, welcome to site? How do we relay that key information to them about not only the rules, but the cultural expectations? How is it that we start building trust with the people that are coming into our culture? What happened next surprised me. So 15 of us were sitting in the room. There's the PowerPoint presentation and there's the safety coordinator. I started seeing the slides move through and I was hearing the safety coordinator's voice. But at that moment, the safety coordinator left the room. They had pre-recorded the induction. Now, you can imagine what happened. There was a number of people that started chatting to each other saying, hey, you know, what project did you work on before this? What are you doing on this project? What project are you working on next? The usual conversation. Then there was a number of people who took out their mobile phones and started swiping left and swiping right, certainly paying more attention to their phones than they were to the induction onto a construction site. And as far as I saw it, onto one of my construction sites. This is not how we intended to build trust. This is not how we intended to say, this is who we are and this is how we're going to demonstrate our safety leadership. But I don't want you to judge that safety coordinator just yet. Don't be too quick to judge them. And today what I wanted to do is speak to you about building safety leaders in organisations through 3 different lenses. And the first one is the organisation itself. The second is the team or the project. And then the third is the individual. So let's look at the organisation. Let's look at how the organisation provides the opportunity to build safety leadership. And I need to tell you, this organisation is a leader in safety, certainly in their industry. There is constant communication. There is consistent communication through all echelons of the organisation. Senior leaders, middle management, entry-level managers, they all know that safety truly is a priority, and it is a part of the fibre of that organisation, part of the culture. They're well resourced. There is good technical information. There is consistent messaging, whether it be verbal, written, via signage, via videos, all of that is there. Now the second lens, the team or the project. There's a very competent construction manager running this site. Now, he very much believes that his job is to keep everybody safe, and the last thing he wants on his site is an incident or accident. He is very focused on making sure that the project is delivered on time and on budget. Of course, whilst believing that safety is everybody's responsibility, he knows that safety on this site is effectively managed by the safety coordinator. The safety coordinator does a great job and demonstrates fantastic leadership. After all, every time there's been an audit, there's a lot of paperwork, and that paperwork shows that people have in fact signed. At the end of the induction that I attended, the coordinator came back 25 minutes later and said, "Here, sign here to show us that you attended the induction." And the 15 people signed. Well, because they had been at the induction. And so the construction manager at that team or project level values the leadership demonstrated by the coordinator, because the coordinator is the source of some of the technical knowledge, is the person who looks after the safety communication, the safety paperwork. But of course, safety is everyone's responsibility. Then let's look at the individual. This person wants to prove themselves. They've done a relatively basic amount of training in safety, and now they're out on site doing the very best they can, given the demands of their role. In fact, if they were to have a 6-monthly review, they would quite rightly go in and tell their manager, "You know, I've been quite innovative. I've used technology. I pre-recorded the induction because I need to give that induction maybe 4 or 5 times a week. So now it's more efficient. So not only have I been innovative, I've also gained efficiencies. I can be in 2 places at once." So is that the safety leaders that we want to build? Is that a good example? So let's then look at how do we train safety leaders? In your organizations, I'm sure that you have some form of leadership training. You perhaps might have an emerging leaders program for the young up-and-comers. Or perhaps you've got a program in leadership for the middle managers who want to step up to senior leadership. Or you might have a program for senior managers, all to develop their leadership skills. How many of your organizations look at the opportunities presented by leadership development programs and include safety leadership in them? Well, I know not many training providers do. I know that I work for an organisation where we absolutely include safety leadership, no matter who it is that we're training, because that is the only way that you can truly get safety leadership at all levels of an organisation. That is how you can build safety leaders in organisations. So what do we want from these people? Let's have a look at the complexity of what we're expecting from safety leaders. We need them to be impactful. We need them to be able to come onto a site and absolutely put safety into action so that others follow. We also need them to have a high level of technical skill. We need them to be the owners of culture, the holders of culture, the nurturers and the drivers of the desired culture that the organization wants. So how do we build that? We need to start looking at each level of leadership, at the organization, at the team, and at the individual. Because this particular example, this particular individual, that's not how the design went. That's not what we intended to build, but yet that was built. And what I'm seeing is that there is a disconnect. There is a disconnect between the safety leaders we want to build and the safety leaders we end up building. And we need to start addressing that disconnect. You know, it is sometimes the very simple things that we do in safety that truly matter. And if your safety induction does not instill trust, does not allow people to manage conflict, does not allow a real commitment to outcome, doesn't drive accountability, there is no way you'll get good safety results. And this is the question we need to ask ourselves. What can we do to improve the way we build safety leaders at every level of the organisation? Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. That was a great presentation. Just to mention, please, could we all mute our mics, please? Okay, thank you, Kate, for your presentation. Just to mention, could we all put our mics on mute? And should you have any question, please, you can drop your question in the chat option, in the chat icon at the bottom of your screen. We will now hear from Sydney Abiodun, Manager System Assurance, BHP Western Australia, Iron Hall. Sydney, please share your screen. Thank you. Hand over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Kayode. I've got a presentation. However, I think I've been, I think Priska has done a fantastic job of obviously using similar presentation format with me. And look, with Kate presenting without any slides, that was an excellent presentation, Kate. Thank you very much. I'll just share my slide. It's not a lot of stuff in there, so we should be fine. Can everyone hear me? Can you see my screen? Hello?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Yeah, we can.
All right, fantastic, fantastic. So, like I said before, I've chosen the same format with Priska. It looks like leaders or great leaders think alike, or, you know, look, I want to thank Elizabeth Abiodun for the introduction, and I want to also thank my my decade-old friend, Mr. Kayode Fowode, for obviously giving us this opportunity to present to everyone in the room. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm around about 8:30, 9 o'clock here, I think. So 8:45 in the night. So I guess back in Nigeria, we're still very much in the afternoon. I'm Sydney Abiodun. I've been introduced before. I'm based here in Perth. I'm just going to run through building safety leaders in an organization. So when I first got this topic, I thought, oh, wow, that's so simple. When I decided to put slides together, I thought, oh, no, this is really complex. It's not as easy as I thought. And then I started going through it, and I thought, okay, I'll just keep it simple, 8 slides, and obviously wait for the questions. Hopefully, I'm able to answer those questions. So without wasting much of your time, I will just go through the slides as quickly as we can. So a quick disclaimer from me. The opinions expressed in this presentation and on the following slide are solely those of myself, the presenter, and not necessarily those of my current or previous employer. So, Eagle's Flight. When I look at the definition of a safety leader by Eagle's Flight, I couldn't see anything else that matches the definition they've used. That a safety leader is somebody who not only exhibits personal safety behavior, but inspires others to do the same. That is heavy. These are people who not only follow safety protocols to the letter, but speak up in a constructive way when they see that others could be doing something in a safer manner. And I'm also sure that leaders of safety would also speak up in a constructive way when they see people doing things in a not safe manner. Now, I like this definition a lot because I couldn't see it anywhere, but it speaks to me directly that this is what leaders need to be. Not just safety leaders, but every leader, whether engineering, finance, or whatever, leaders needs to be able to have that empathy, needs to be able to understand that emotional intelligence of people you're dealing with. So, safety leadership and culture, what's the relationship of this? Now, the following model demonstrates the many elements that impart a strong safety culture. Safety leadership, as you can see from this model, is the backbone of a safety culture. To develop a positive safety culture in any organization, there's a need for us to show a strong safety leadership as leaders. Through safety leadership, we can influence people in a much more positive way. Now, if we build safety leadership in a model that we use in promoting our safety culture, we would go a long way to be able to establish true leaders in our organizations. Now, true leading by example in the workplace, safety leaders can help build workers, safety knowledge, and obviously motivation. They can increase compliance with safety rules, and they can encourage a proactive safety behavior in the workplace. Now, I've also picked this model. It's a bit of an interesting one, just looking at some of the competencies that a safety leader ought to have. And I thought this was very interesting in terms of the attributes and some of the traits of a leader. In terms of being able to obviously support team members through active monitoring of decisions and actions, and also ensuring alignment with the corporate safety strategy, vision, and values of the organizations they work for or represent. Now, recognizing and rewarding team members, as you can see from that wheel, based on their demonstration of effective safety behavior is very important. Now, when you recognize people and reward people, a simple thank you is more than enough to obviously motivate any employees in a leadership position or as a safety leader. Now, the wheel also talk about collaborating, it talk about inspiring, it talk about being a role model, challenging team members to think about safety issues and scenarios in a way that they might not have considered before. So when I look at the 8 leadership competencies displayed here, it tells a true safety leader that they are people who actually speak to people's mind. Going back again to the definition of who is a safety leader by Eagles Flight. And I think this is a true representation on the sort of competencies that we need to have as true safety leaders. Now, I've moved further in the presentation to look at strategies for building safety leadership. So to me, in my opinion, I think we need to identify. Okay. In my opinion, I think, look, we need to identify, assess, and analyze the strengths of potential future leaders with the required attributes and mental competencies. Now, why did I decide we need to identify leaders with the right, strengths, attributes, and mental competencies? Now, it's always, looking at, going back to, I wouldn't want to say the company I work for represent, but if you look at most workplaces or organizations, identifying people with that strength is not something that organizations do very well. Now, we're very good at obviously putting up leadership programs, one-off trainings and all that, but actually spending time to observe people is not something that we do very well in the bigger scale, except of course, if you're a leader and you have particular interest in some persons within your team that you think, look, these guys are demonstrating true leadership sort of attributes, then obviously you want to gravitate towards, trying to build, that skills, trying to build them further in that leadership route. Now, I think identifying the naturals, organizations need to move towards using adaptive or mental competencies, the sets of knowledge, skills, and attitude that underpin or allow for development or other competencies, especially those that people will need in the future. So mental competencies, for example, enables learning, adapting, anticipating, and creating change. Now that, to me, is particularly important for us to be able to identify in the workplace. Now, I also went further to say we need to merge safety leadership development program and succession planning. Now, succession planning itself, if you look at organizations today, is something that you sort of choose people, or you sort of pick on people that you feel either a God feel, or people you think alike, or people you think, oh, this guy I think is going to be a true leader, or this. But we are not actually being transparent in the way we deliver succession planning. So to me, I think merging safety leadership development and succession planning is something that organizations needs to be doing very well. And that is going beyond the one-off training, and also obviously following through with action learnings, job rotations, giving employees challenging tasks or assignments that can develop them in that leadership route in terms of safety engineering or whatever function or area you want to call it. So to me, I think that is very important, because obviously I've seen a lot of training. I've been to a lot of training myself as an engineering leader. I go into this training room. After 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, I'm out of it. I've completely forget everything I've gone in there, and I can't even remember anything. Sometimes my boss tell me, "Oh, you've got to go to that training, mate." To me, I think we need to be more transparent. We need to develop programs that not only end the classroom, but also get taken into the workplace to further develop our potential safety leaders or employees. Now, I also recommend that, look, we need to have a leader-to-leader and group-based safety leadership programs. These are leaders, peers, coming together to challenge each other, talk about challenges they're facing, some of the good stuff they're doing, how they've navigated barriers, and just generally learn from each other. This could be on a one-to-one type leadership, pair development program. So it could be in a group setting where you have leaders come together and generally just share, knowledge, understanding, and obviously true leadership behaviors that people can take away or learn from. Now, emotional intelligence, I'm very sure everybody here know what that is. To me, this has been a very important sort of area for me. There has been time in my career where, as an engineer, obviously when you are tasked with a project and your team members are not delivering on that project, it gets to a point where you decide, come on, everybody, roll up my sleeve. I'm just going to do it, get it done. Everybody can move on. Now, we do not think about the impact or the effect of what we say on the people that we're speaking to. And I think having a good emotional intelligence or developing our emotional intelligence is a very important particular skill set that we need to have as leaders. Now, mentoring, coaching, and networking opportunities are other areas that obviously organizations can use in developing leaders, especially with networking. It could be strategic, it could be functional, opportunities for you to network within the organization. But there should be a chance for organizations to have a program where, as a leader, you can obviously get mentored, you can get coached, you can coach mentees as well. You can have mentees as well that you're coaching, depend on the level where you are in your career, to be able to develop your personal, leadership skill set, as well as learn from other leaders who are at a higher level than you are. Now, I think organizations need to establish a Kaizen culture. Kaizen is a Japanese word that obviously means Hansai, and to me, this is just bringing it home to a level where knowledge, acknowledging one's own mistake and to pledge improvement. It's a commitment. That's what Kaizen is. It's a commitment. You acknowledge your own mistakes and you commit to doing the right stuff. To have that continuous improvement type culture in anything that obviously you do, be it safety, be it quality, I think that it's a culture that we as organizations needs to embrace in order to be able to have a very successful type safety culture or environment. Now, I've put in here that we acknowledge, we reward, and celebrate safety leader success. Now, with reward, I'm not saying we give people monies. I'm not saying we try to motivate people by having, a sort of, I've been in organizations where, if you report hazards, for example, depending on the number of hazards you reported in a week or a month or per period, you get some X amount of monies to say thank you for reporting hazards. Now, this could work in some setting, work environment, but to me, it does obviously sort of promote a culture where people are reporting hazards because there is a monetary gain that is coming from obviously doing that. Now, to me, safety should just be something natural to you. It should be something that you do, not because policies or procedures or processes mandates that you do it, but it's just something that you do because it's the right thing to do. So if you see a trailing cable on the floor, rather than walk past it, you pick it up. If you're mowing your lawn on a sunny day, rather than just go out there with no gloves or goggles, it would be a good idea for you to just do it naturally because it's the right thing to do. So now I think we need to celebrate safety leaders. It's not easy being out there trying to obviously motivate your peers to be able to do the right thing. Now, celebrating people who do the right thing by simple, letting them per week come out and just talk about what they've done that week, how they've approached, difficult situations or difficult issues, is a way of obviously celebrating leaders as well, who do the right thing in the workplace. Now, in my conclusion, really and truly, is just me just bringing this all together to say, to develop a positive safety culture in your organization, you need to develop safety leaders. And that effective safety leadership not only result in increased safety performance, but also improved employee engagement, productivity, quality, and job satisfaction. And I'm sure everyone present here today on this webinar would agree that achieving organizational safety goals requires leadership, both from executives and among the people at the shop floor. Being aware that safety leaders are not always in managerial roles, and that often the people doing the work have a deeper insight into the steps that will improve safety. And we see this a lot out in the field. I work in a mining environment where complexity is second to none. And you get most of these guys out in the field, you think don't know anything about safety. They actually truly understand the hazards. They understand how to manage risk on their side, and they truly care about other people. Cultivating safety leaders by identifying them, giving them a voice, and providing additional training will increase the motivation they already have and help encourage safe behaviors across the organization. So if we go back again to the strategies, I think it is very important that we have leadership trainings and not just stopping at that one-off training, but also having out in the workplace type action learning programs to support the learning process, so you don't walk away from a training program forgetting everything you've learned. And that's me. Thank you.
Thank you, Sydney, for your presentation. That was a great presentation. We will now hear from Dr. David Thomas, CFIOS, Senior Lecturer and Head of Department, MSc, Occupational Safety and Health at Middlesex University. David, could you please share your screen? We're ready to do that. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I hope you all hear me. Yeah, I was head of department at Greenwich for a period of time there, but at Middlesex, I'm just a portfolio lead. I'm lucky being last because I can sort of think outside the box a bit, because all the valuable things I think have been said by 3 previous speakers. And it's interesting going back to the first few words, leadership and followership. We've got a student doing a PhD in this area, in safety, leadership and followership. And I've asked the question, what's the difference between safety leadership and safety followership and followership? Interesting, Kate's words bringing up the old work of John Adair, management theory. So again, management theory yet in a safety context. And I'm going right back in, and I do wonder if we've gone, the profession has gone on a strange journey, because when I started in health and safety, back in the job I was doing a career ago, it seems to be, the same discussions and conversations were being said now that they are now. And I wonder if the role of a health and safety professional or leader is almost a get out clause for management. And I want you to think, I'm thinking outside the box. I want you guys to go away and think out the box, because the world is going through different levels of maturity and development with industry at different points. And I think if I was to look back and say, are we now where I wanted us to be in hindsight 25 years ago? I'd say probably not. And we have a thing called the Abilene Paradox, which it's worth Googling and finding out what that's about business journeys. And the other thing is obviously about the word technical I've heard used a couple of times, which I'll go into later. Can people see my screen still? Is it coming up okay? Can I just stop sharing a second, please? I'm not sure that was my screen there. I was seeing something strange my end. So a few questions I want people to think about is, first of all, who are the leaders in industry? And I want to sort of split up. Is a health and safety professional, is that the health and safety leader? And is health and safety profession a final career destination? And the challenge that we were given today was the word safety leader. Well, why not the health and safety leadership bit? And I think under UK health and safety law, it's health and safety, not just safety. And that's a different skill set, different knowledge, different data. And is that not where the value is? Is that not where the challenge is? Consider, where does occupational health and safety fit in with societal values? Is it the same throughout the world? And I've talked to students who tell me stories about, you know, we're trying to talk about improving safety performance, and they say, well, our country hasn't got human rights. You know, we're just playing games at this, you know, because why? So some very, very great questions are being challenged. And, you know, professional organizations like IOSH and other global organizations, I think, have got a role to play to challenge these things and call out things when they're wrong. And my first question, I think, is leadership the same as safety leadership? I just want you to consider who gets the best salary. The person who provides advice on occupational health and safety. And remember, there's no job in the UK, or there's no legal requirement to have a health and safety advisor in UK law. That may come as a surprise to people. The requirements to have health and safety assistants. Language of law is written that the manager's the boss. But do we reward the person responsible for managing the risk, the person getting paid the salary for being in charge? Back to this thing I'm saying, it's the health and safety role, the get out of jail card. Well, if it goes wrong, actually, very often it isn't a get out of jail card, because you cannot, if you're a manager, not be a manager. So are we missing a trick? Have we missed a trick? Remember, assistance was needed when health and safety legislation in the UK first started. In 1974, we had high-risk industries like coal mining, we had steelworks, we had you know, rail, shipbuilding. These things we got far less of there. We're far more a service-based economy. And I know we've offshored those risks because we have nations like Nigeria produced with massive oil, gas, and other industrial production that the other people do in a way offshore. So ask yourself the question. And I did this with some students. I asked the questions, how many health and safety directors are there? And I looked for job advertisements. Where are the jobs, health and safety director jobs and vacancies? They couldn't find many. Could you find many with the word well-being? And so that's another debate, is define the word, what the word well-being means, because it means different things to different people. And it's defined by different organizations. And I will defer to the CIPD definition. But how many HR directors were there? A lot more than there were health and safety directors vacancies. And risk directors globally, an awful lot. So there isn't much of a career going upwards in health and safety, unless you do something else. And I'll tell you something else, Erm Global Survey of 2018. This has been cited, has been as an interesting piece. This was actually information put together by health and safety leaders. And some of the key points I picked out, and this is almost demonstrating a vacuum in the workplace of leadership. if leadership should come from management, remember, who do do people listen to at work? Is it the boss, or is it the HR manager? Is it the accountant, or is it the health and safety person? Ultimately, it's the boss, and the boss then seeks and consults with those other people. We're talking about 30% think their senior leaders are spending sufficient time in the field. That means 70% aren't. They're not about. So shift work, it means nighttime and afternoon shift, no one's there. 36% of responders agree their mid-level leaders are spending sufficient time on the front line. So again, nighttime and afternoon and weekends, they've gone home. And 52% of responders agree their frontline leaders that are taken as the supervisors are spending sufficient time on the front line. That's half. Half the people paid to supervise ain't supervising. Just think about these gaps in the workplace. And 29% felt leaders at all levels were effective at hazard recognition, engaging effectively as coaches on the front lines. You've got people who are managing the risk. And my days when I was working for a company now called Imerys Minerals, I got my master's degree in safety management there. I always said I didn't want an inspector coming on site knowing more about my site risks than I did. So why aren't managers understanding their business risks? This is why businesses fail. 100 times more businesses fail in the UK than people die at work. Maybe we haven't got very good managers, and maybe this is the gap. ERM survey of 2020. They went on and had some other interesting stats about skill sets, etc. And part of the interesting thing there was very much, and I will quote from it. I'm going to towards the end, guys. I know time is not on my side. If I quote you from it talks about technical needs. Over 1/3 of responders identified specific deficiencies in technical capabilities, often arising because of the practice of recruiting individuals into the function from operational or maintenance backgrounds. So the most frequently cited technical needs related to process safety, chemical exposure, health generally, and mental health and wellness programs specifically. So we're talking about people who actually, people get injured, it's tradesmen. And are we saying we want health and safety people to be tradesmen, ex-tradesmen, going onto site, checking that the operators are working correctly? Because what does technical mean? And technical has got 3 definitions in the dictionary. Previous IOSH president came to me and gave me 3 separate definitions. And people follow me on LinkedIn, they'll see that. I don't think business knows what technical means, and we use it in different ways. Is it the welder who's actually welding or putting together a high-level frame, steel frame, or is it the person who's designed it, who's done the calculations? What's technical? And both are different jobs with different skill sets and different backgrounds, and yet probably both are technical. And the manager goes to a job recruitment agency, I want someone technical. Not helping. So language is giving us a problem, and we haven't changed. We've created more words. And these numbers talk about levels of skills we've got. And a lot of people want different skills there. Application of technology and safety. Business operation context and business acumen. That is MBA level 7, level 7, 8 in academia. Yet the person who knows how to drive a forklift truck or be a welder will never aspire to be that. People are happy to be in that different area. So we have different skill sets, different knowledges. So I looked at this, I got some more guidance. I thought, okay, well, I'm not convinced with that. Look at this. And the language here about knowledge, skills, attitudes, and behaviors. And you could say that would fit a health and safety professional's job. That would be a competent person to many people. But this is actually a specification by the Scottish Waste Industry Training Group in Scotland for a supervisor, about the competencies required: coaching, mentoring, communication, interpersonal people skills, problem solving. So I'll ask the question, what's the difference between a health and safety person with no business experience gaining qualification, and someone actually, someone doesn't have the health, someone has the qualification, then they get the experience, and then they become a health and safety person, or someone who's a supervisor or manager and gets a health and safety qualification, ultimately you end up with the same thing, don't you? But employers employ both or one. So are we missing a game? And John Spanswick, who's used to be health and safety director of Bovis Lendlease, the next health and safety commissioner in the UK, he said his mantra was he had not seen an accident that could have been prevented with the presence of a supervisor. So are we there in the past? So I heard the word mining mentioned. My background was obviously mining engineering first degree, and the mines and quarries sectors talks about an appointment as a manager, and that manager is responsible for everything. And that manager, as I needed to know when I wanted an occupational hygienist, when I want an engineer to design a platform, when I want to get a training company to train my forklift drivers to a certain standard. I wouldn't do it. The health and safety person didn't know how to do it. He had his expertise. It's a system in place. I would go to proper companies. I knew who to get was competent because I was the health and safety leader. I was the site manager on that site. The inspector came looking for me. So, yeah, and that's when we talk about workers planned and worked as imagined. Because when I went into a local authority health and safety advisor's role, and I got the job title, for me it was, well, this is what I want the job to be done. And because the people managing the job weren't doing it properly. And that's when the gap happens. When management has the ownership, that gap narrows. We've gone on this Abilene Paradox, this route for 20, 25 years. And we're talking about, you know what, why don't we just take out the Tipp-Ex or the rubber, rub out the word safety leader and say it's leader. Mr. Manager, you're in charge. You've got the skill set. And it's about this thing about if the board of directors won't change, how do we get health and safety professionals as leaders to go into industry? And that's I think is where to go. So should we not aim to get to the board? Should we not say those of us in as health and safety professionals that understand business, that 20%, these are people we should be on, I'd say not just health and safety leadership training, I'd say leadership training. And I'm doing an MBA as a student, so I'm actually learning, and I'm trying to see how, as an educationist, how we can actually, an educator, how we can actually blend this together and create something at that level. But this is outside the scope of any professional body. This is something cutting edge, what we're trying to do. So is health and safety leadership the same as business leadership? Are we missing tricks? And again, who do we listen to at board level? And that's really, so I'm asking a lot of questions, a few experiences. And I'm just trying to challenge what we're trying to do. I think we're all trying to do the same thing. But I think we should need to stick our head up the parapet and say we are leaders and we are risk professionals. And the RM report does say one thing, that people who get kudos in health and safety have got another role. Business continuity, risk management. They've got some engineers, because we're adding something to a health and safety qualification, and that is a competency bit. So the idea of health and safety, I think I actually disagree with the concept of health and safety being a first career. And I'll stand by that, because unless you're putting it in with that experience of how the workplace works, in which to judge, evaluate and understand risk, then I don't think we're going to get there. So is it a skill set, or is it a transitional part of a career we're on? And this opens up opportunity for educators to train and educate more people in different areas to raise that competency across the piece. And that's really a challenge, is I think for lifelong learning, health and safety should be on everybody's journey in the workplace, and we should all become leaders. But it should be consolidated as a established business skill set. And that's my point. That's my few words of wisdom or otherwise to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. David, very much for your presentation. This is the opportunity for us to now discuss any question you may have. So may I hand over now to Gostin Okwidu to moderate questions. Gostin, could you please take over? Thank you. Please, you also have opportunity to drop your questions in the chat option beneath your screen. If Gostin is around, could you please take? Well, I've got one first question here. Leadership can mean a lot to different individuals. What in most cases, you have leaders who does not show visible leadership on site. How do you, as HSE manager, who reports to a senior manager, but who does not actually represent true leadership on site, how do you deal with a manager that you report to, but who does not represent true leadership as well? So maybe I'll allow Kate to answer this question. Kate, do you want to attempt that? Thank you.
Sure. So this is the challenge of having a workforce which is focused on leadership in safety and safe outcomes, but seemingly not having the higher echelons of the organisation supporting that intent. And this is a huge challenge, I guess, in some organisations and in some areas of the world. All I can really speak to is the Australian situation, because having worked in Dubai and Abu Dhabi and Singapore, I understand that there are not only legislative differences in terms of how safety is incorporated in organisations at board level, but there are also cultural differences. So I guess I would look for, what are the roadblocks? Why do senior leaders reject the idea that what the workforce wants, which is a safer workplace, is something that doesn't interest them? What are the roadblocks there? Is it cost? Is it a lack of understanding? Is it a lack of empathy? And then what are the opportunities? What are the levers that we have? Is it working through the shareholders to try and promote the value, if we must, in a dollar sense, of working towards a safer workplace? And the challenge here is really understanding more about that particular situation. What are the roadblocks for the senior leaders, for the board, to adopting genuine safety leadership approach? Or, as David would say, just a proper business approach. Because if you want to run a sustainable business, safety has to be a part of that. So that's my piece. I'd love to hear what David has to say.
David, do you want to contribute to?
What the mystery? And I fully agree. But I remember my ISO 14001 training in 1998. There we go, last century, in the southwest of England on a wet day in a China clay quarry. And as I was doing the environmental audit, I just picked up all the safety failings. The manager wasn't about, the toilets were dirty. And you're just thinking, you know what, this is just a badly managed site. And it's about bad management. Okay, you've hit the nail on the head there. If businesses, if they're going to injure people, they don't deserve to be successful. And we had a consultant who was actually on through the IRCWMBG pages saying, I can't convince my client to change what they're doing. And none of them have the heart to write back and just says, tell him where to go. Tell him, no, I'm not going to operate as a consultant for you anymore. Get someone else. Walk away from the business. It takes a challenge when people have a living through it, but it is about good and bad and changing at the top. But we have to get to these senior positions. That's the only way. And I think that's the challenge that the younger generation, younger than me, who don't have grey hair and have more of it, need to be doing. And it's worth it. It's the learning curve is brilliant because you learn the language of business. The language of business is the way to get into the boardroom, is to make those genuine value-based arguments, which you can't really do in a report.
Thank you, David, for the contribution. I think I'll now hand over to Gossin Okwidu. While Gossin is about to take over the question, maybe I'll just take a quick one from Samuel Uzoku before Gossin takes over. Samuel, could you please unmute yourself? You can ask the question directly. Samuel?
Okay, while we wait for Samuel, please, we can be writing our questions in the chat box. I'll be taking them one after the other from there while we wait for Samuel to ask this question. Lovely, lovely session. Okay, we seem to... Samuel. Yes, go ahead, Samuel. We can hear you now.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello.
I can hear you clearly, Samuel. Can you? Samuel, you can just drop your message using the chat option. Maybe
all right, Samuel, please just type out your question in the chat box. We have another question. I think I'll be directing this to Mr. Sydney. It's actually directed to Engineer Sydney. And someone is asking, said, what is the difference between recognition and reward for good safety behavior or good safety results? Because I guess, while during your presentation, you said you don't really sort of support, giving of rewards for safety performance and all of that. So you have a question. Do you want to give us distinction between recognition and reward for safety results?
That's a very, very interesting question. Look, I've got my opinions, but obviously we're founded on facts out in the field. Now, when we talk about rewarding people, I use the example of monetary rewards. Obviously encouraging people to do the right thing, which is the right thing to do, by obviously providing monetary value has never really worked in the management world successfully, to be quite honest to you. But when you obviously, thank people, a simple thank you, a simple, well done for doing that, goes a long way to obviously satisfy people or building trust in people that you are actually sort of sincerely, sort of recognizing their effort in trying to do the right thing. So basically, the difference between reward and obviously recognition is, one, it's got to do with some monetary value or got to do with gifts and stuff attached to it to try and obviously it's sort of like buying you to obviously do the right thing to motivate you. But when we look at recognition is, I do a lot of work for my GM, and he never stops saying, Sydney, thank you very much for obviously putting that piece of work together very quickly. Now, what that does to me is to be able to do more of that. Now, I'm not doing that just for the thank you or for the recognition. I'm doing it because I think he genuinely feel like I have done something good. Now, when you talk about monetary reward, I've been on different sites doing, field leadership, and I've heard people or the shop floor workers talking about, trying to manipulate the number of hazards that they report, for example, just because they feel like, there's going to be some money coming towards them. And they form a clique or sort of a syndicate where they sort of have that same understanding and just share that glory amongst themselves. To me, it's not a true way to motivate people who genuinely want to do the right thing. I'm happy for the other speakers to add some content to that.
Yes, please. Kate, you go some addition to that, Kate.
Yeah, the monetary reward for safety performance just is not a sustainable way to build a safety culture. We know that in terms of people taking ownership and accountability, that needs to come from a place other than doing that only if there's something at the end of that transaction or interaction. As the first speaker said, having a transactional relationship and only performing potential positive safety actions because you think you might get financially rewarded is not ultimately going to lead you to the higher echelons of a mature safety culture. So I'm very much with Sydney. It's a big thumbs down for the financial rewards when it comes to the right safety behaviours. As leaders, we need to try harder to provide the impetus and the want and the skill, the will and the skill for people just to follow the rules that are given, demonstrate their own safety leadership, rather than making it a if-then equation.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you very much, Kate. I think we'll just allow James Adenuga. Can you kindly unmute yourself and ask your question directly? James Adenuga. I can see your hands raised. Hello, James. Can you hear me? All right. While James is getting himself sorted.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, please. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, James.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity. Well, thanks so very much for putting it together. I think it's been a very, eye-opening, and I like the way it's been very practical, particularly Kate is taking it from a different dimension anyway, but thanks so much, all the panelists. So what I would like the panel to help us out with talking about leadership is this visible leadership, in terms from a business sense for the business leaders. So I'm just trying to find out from the panelists, how do we really assist to close this gap because it's always said that everything rises and falls on leadership. And when we say HSC leadership, the guys on the shop floor always want to say, leadership commitment and all that. But in the real sense, practical sense, how really can the gap of visible leadership be closed in a maturing organization, so that the pulse of leadership can truly be felt, rather than it being a lip service or what have you. I don't know if you understand my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, James. I don't know, Dr. Thomas, you want to say something about that, sir?
Yeah, a very, very interesting question. I think it's on an individual basis. It's that if you're providing health and safety support to a business, you need that gravitas and that link to the chief exec, the person at the top. You need the door to be open, to know how to use it, and to know how to actually give a report together in less than one side of A4. As basic as that, talk their language and their style. Ultimately, to do it, it's that paradigm shift I keep talking about. We have to change what we mean by it. It's not an add-on, it's core. We're not add-ons, and I think the skill set many of you are here today could easily go into leadership positions in organisations if you wanted to. That's the challenge: is do you want to? Because it are the pressures of that, and it does make you go grey. I want to pick up on the previous question as well. Remember, it's about health as well. 80% in the UK, 80% of all work-related absence linked to health and safety. It's down to health, physical and mental health. The data for that is held by the HR profession. You can't get into that data and start to link ill health with work, you're ineffective. And yet around the world, that door is shut. That door is kept quiet. So we can only do, at maximum, we can only be 20% efficient. So these are the challenges, to be health and safety experts. And if it's into mental health, there are specific mental health qualifications in psychology, whatever, as well. So we have to learn as well. We have to continue to learn and develop and realize our skill set is bigger. We have to do more value to the business. So my colleague at another council, he was involved in business continuity. But literally a month before COVID-19, lockdown happened in the UK. They'd rolled out laptops to everybody as part of their IT business continuity strategy developed 12 months previously. And he had the door of the chief exec open because he helped them manage their business risks from that level of respect, from a business, and he was seen as a practical person. Does that help you, sir?
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. David. Because of the paucity of time, please just keep your questions coming in. We'll review them, and send every other thing in our post-webinar communication. I think at this time I want to leave the floor back to Engineer Kayode so that our speakers can give us their closing remarks.
Okay, thank you, Godson. I think before we do that, I'll just quickly want to give the opportunity to Samuel to talk to. I know his hand has been raised since the beginning of the question, so maybe we'll take that question from him before we close. Samuel, could you please unmute yourself if you are still with us? Samuel. Okay. Okay, I think Samuel is having internet issues, so unfortunately we might not be able to take the question. So I'll just quickly take a closing statement from all our speakers. So we'll start with Kate. Kate, do you have any closing statement?
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Okay, Samuel. His internet connection is bad, so we'll just proceed. Kate, your closing remark. Thank you.
Well, for one, thank you everyone for participating and for your questions and feedback. I think that thought that you leave me with is, how do we close that gap? You know, I mentioned that I see a gap between the safety leaders that we want to build and the safety leaders that we are building. And that has to be through really proactive communication. And David asked some incredible questions. We need to keep asking those questions. And they don't have to be complex. They can be as simple as, what's working, what's not working, and let's take some action. Let's recognize the things that we're doing really well, and let's damn well stop avoiding the things that are not working. And sometimes that may relate directly to leadership. Other times that may relate to resourcing. Other times that may relate to culture. But unless we ask the questions, we won't be able to get to the answers. Thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you, Kate. Sydney.
Hi, look, I want to say thank you to everyone who were able to obviously make it to this presentation. To me, I'm really, really excited that, you know, it's been a long time I've been back in Nigeria myself. I'm a Nigerian and obviously left many years ago. To have a lot of people show up today, to me, tells me that we are somewhere, you know, better than where I think we were when I left the country or when I've been visiting myself. So taking safety very seriously in a country like Nigeria, where regulatory type compliance is not as robust or as strict or as rigorous as what you have in the UK that I've stayed, as well as in Australia, you know, it demonstrates the commitment of, you know, the people of Nigeria, you know, commitment to safety, and that I am very, you know, thankful. And look, Engineer Kayode, thank you for putting this together. I think our friend before asked the question about how do business leaders demonstrate visible leadership, or you know, the sort of balance in between that. So to me, I mean, the question is being answered very correctly. For leaders to be able to understand what happens in the shop floor, you go back to that Kaizen culture that I talked about, where, you know, you take the workplace as a gemba. You know, you want to understand the workplace, you want to understand the issues right from the workplace that people are facing. If you're a genuine leader, it's not a tick in the box. It's not, you know, it's not tied to statistics. When I go out in the field, I do travels to the middle of nowhere in Australia, to the mining site. I genuinely observe, you know, people doing the job. And I appreciate that these guys are doing the job the very best way they can. Now, if you understand the Australian culture in the mining environment, it's a case of toughing up princess, you know. There is no point to you as a guy behaving like you can't get the job done. You need to get the job done, you know. And that can obviously create a sort of a peer pressure where people wants to do beyond, you know, what they are capable or do beyond their capability just to satisfy their peers. Now, in my organizations, there are different, you know, where we demonstrate visible leadership. For example, we've got the talk time, we've got the layered audits, we've got the observations that you do just seeing somebody, you know, operating machinery. We've got leaders at the very highest level going out of sight, actually calling people by their names. Those are genuine leaders, and that is what leaders need to demonstrate. Whether you're a business leader or a safety leader, it doesn't really matter. It's about your genuine consent and your genuine sort of commitment to ensuring the safety of people who day in, day out spend most of their time in the workplace rather than being with their family to ensure that the company is successful. So look, guys, my closing remark here is I'm very, you know, pleased to be here, you know, talking to you guys. I know it's a very hard topic, like I said before. But then again, look, I'm just humbled to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sydney. Can we then have our last from David Thomas? David, any closing statement for us?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been great meeting everybody, seeing the response in the chat, and I hope to link. If you want to link in with me, please feel free. I think I'm going to pick up on Kate's final remark. You know, if there's a gap there, that gap, it's there. And if management don't want to bridge it, we bridge it. Back to, you know, it takes two toes to build a bridge. And if one end doesn't want to do it, we'll do it from our end. But that means we're after your jobs. And we got the skill to do it. We mustn't be afraid to be that. Be ourselves. Don't be our job title. Be ourselves. Look for opportunity. And health and safety, I think, can be a route to something further. So it's not the end game. It's a route to becoming a business leader. And I think that's a transaction, I think, the challenge for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, David, Dr. David. We're just about 3 minutes past our time. I think that's close to the time. So I would just like to end the session by thanking our presenters and everyone present today who took their time to join us for this webinar. We will be making a link to the recording online and via email, so please look out for it in your inbox. Thank you for joining us and taking part, and please do take care. Do have a nice week. Bye.
Yep. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Services to the following clients. Our services are manpower recruitment and outsourcing, project safety management, ISO certification, security services, procurement, supply and maintenance of safety equipment, floor marking and signages, QHSSE documentation, research and publication, QHSSE training, learning and development, environmental management and sustainability, our facilities and equipment. Kevin Consulting is committed to promoting health and safety by embarking on several corporate social responsibilities, one of which is the award of final year scholarships to students. To find out more, you can visit our website at www.kevinconsultingltd.com, or you can contact us on +234 134 245 78. Kevin Consulting Limited, safety is our word. Hello, wherever you find yourself, in your home, at work, think safety first. Safety is your responsibility. Kevin Consulting Limited is a quality health, safety, security, environmental consultancy and training company, offering services to clients anywhere in the world. Our mission is to create value, satisfaction, and better outcomes to our customers by offering and having due regard for levels of service and customer care reasonably expected of us by our clients, customers, business associates, and other partners. Our ambition is to be the QHSE provider of your choice, building sustainable relationships and creating value for each and every customer. We are driven by the core values of service, integrity, reliability, competency, focus and better outcome, and respect for people. These are the certification bodies we are content with. We have also provided quality services to the following clients. Our services are manpower recruitment and outsourcing, project safety management, ISO certification, security services, procurement, supply and maintenance of safety equipment, floor marking and signages, QHSSE documentation, research and publication, QHSSA trainings, learning and development, environmental management and sustainability, our facilities and equipment. Kevin Consulting is committed to promoting health and safety by embarking on several corporate social responsibilities, one of which is the award of final year scholarships to students. To find out more, you can visit our website at www.kevinconsultingltd.com, or you can contact us on +234 134 245 78. Kevin Consulting Limited, safety is our word.